way we do everything, not just business. Of course, I'm biased being in the climate world. I think there's no greater challenge that we need, the best minds and resources to focus on. But I think at the intersection between AI and climate, a lot of
maybe two questions from different directions, but still, underpinning the economics of the model. One of them, the way I understood the model was that funds will flow from companies that have low carbon footprint and invest actually in reducing their carbon footprint. So that investment can be, and this is the second part of the question, this investment can be traded on stock exchanges, right, of carbon footprint. And I think this model, you refer to the use of the natural produced carbon credits, but I thought there is another part which hinges on innovation, on this work with startups that can produce actually technologies to reduce the carbon footprint and require investment. So I don't know if that's the same market or there are two different markets.
Yeah. So in the voluntary carbon market, there are different project types. And this is, to your point, Manuel, there are nature-based solutions. So think about planting trees to have mature forests, which are great to sequester carbon. But there are also technology-based project types like direct air carbon capture, where you are drawing carbon out of the atmosphere, carbon that was already emitted and can be drawn out of the atmosphere and then oftentimes injected into the ground with geologic sequestration. And so they have different considerations. They have different lifespans in terms of how long the sequestration happens, and also have different price per tons as a result of that. So buying, nature-based project type carbon credits versus technology-based like DAC, direct air carbon capture, have different prices. So that is contributing, I think, to the nuance and the technical expertise that's needed to understand, what's available, what does high quality look like? Again, is it truly additional? Is there any leakage happening? What are the governance frameworks in place to ensure that these projects deliver the outcomes that you initially understand when you're making those purchases? Are the credits already generated, or will they come later, for example, as the forest matures or as the technology commercializes? So the voluntary carbon market has all of these project types available. Buyers are oftentimes going to different marketplaces and platforms like Puro or CIX. There are these exchanges that live and are popping up all around the world to purchase the credits and know that they live on a registry so that they are verified and they can credibly point to these, for example, if they have a carbon neutral goal that they're trying to achieve, or if they're on a longer term multi-year roadmap to achieve net zero, to say, we're decarbonizing internally, and for everything that we can't yet offset, we will rely on the purchasing of carbon credits to help us achieve that goal.
And you talk about the goals and short term, and of course we started to talk about the fact that sustainability must be connected to strategy, because it's a long term winding road, if you want. What role do you see carbon credits playing in strategy, as opposed to in this effort to actually make sustainability profitable? Because paying for carbon credits, it's coming off the balance sheet as a cost. So how do you see this playing?
Absolutely. I think what we absolutely should not do is rely on carbon credits to eclipse all sustainability efforts, right? Decarbonization must happen. We know that in the next 7 or so years till 2030, we basically need to have emissions. That's the carbon reduction side. Now, carbon removal through things like the voluntary carbon market and those project types that generate carbon credits that live on there, that's to really help with beyond value chain mitigation. And again, the very difficult scope 3 that companies struggle with. So it's not either or, it's and. And I think the crucial role that carbon credits can play with companies and their sustainability strategies is to enable impact that they otherwise wouldn't be able to do because they're limited to what their business and what their teams know how to do. So oftentimes companies don't have any sort of nature element in their sustainability strategies. Yet, over half, 55% of the world's GDP, which is the equivalent of $58 trillion, is exposed to material risks due to moderate or high dependence on nature. And so everything is tied to the equilibrium that we have established in the planet. Yet, as we know, this is not a business consideration, setting board agendas or company strategies. And so whether, it's protecting and managing our water systems, land, air, wildlife, we have to think about nature-based climate solutions. And I think that the project types that are generating carbon credits provide a mechanism for companies to fund, support conservation, and really invest in the climate solutions that are protecting and advancing nature, which is tied back to the stability and growth of their own businesses.
So, assuming this issue of carbon credits exchanges, right, allowing really to value the companies at the right points, right, creating the right value. I can see then some companies can put on the strategy to create credits, not to use the credits, but to create credits. So as a line of business, as a way to invest in innovation in startups, they actually can look on how to create credits, because the credits create value. Value goes again on the positive side of the balance sheet, right? So
Exactly.
I can see a possible future. I don't know if you see the same. I don't know if it's just a theory or this may happen.
I absolutely agree. And I think that's a trend. We're already starting to see a lot of innovation and climate startups use carbon credits as a means of revenue generation. So, for refrigerant recapture and destruction, for bioengineering of trees that can sequester carbon faster and longer. These are all innovations that are happening that are using the voluntary carbon market to say, this is how we will generate revenue and also provide a channel for capital from buyers of carbon credits from big businesses that aren't necessarily doing this themselves, but can thus invest in and help make these technologies more commercial.
And we got to this point, and I don't think any interview today can escape the question of AI. But do you see startups using AI in this space? Have you thinking especially of California?
Yeah, absolutely. It does feel like AI is almost bigger than climate in terms of how it will change and rapidly evolve the way we do everything, not just business. Of course, I'm biased being in the climate world. I think there's no greater challenge that we need, the best minds and resources to focus on. But I think at the intersection between AI and climate, a lot of new startups and companies, and actually very established nature-based solutions, they can leverage AI. I know that's a big word and concept, but they can leverage it in terms of addressing some of the criticisms of these projects for delivering on the impacts that we project. So if you think about reforestation or native restoration, right? There's desiccant land that has been overgrazed, and we know that by planting the right types of seeds and plants, we can work our way back to a mature forest that is essentially independent again, not needing any sort of human intervention to keep it growing and healthy and again sequestering carbon. But in terms of the labor that's needed to really assess and confirm that over a span of 3, 5, 10, and beyond years, this forest has actually matured and is actually still in place, that it's not impacted by illegal logging or displaced, or that a wildfire hasn't wiped out the trees. You often need to send people out there to ensure that those trees and the forest is still there. But using, GIS mapping, satellite imagery, modeling out all of the different potential natural disasters and wildfires that could happen is changing the way that we grow and mature forests, manage them, and also account for unforeseen circumstances. So that's just one way, but I think that the uncertainty and the way that we are able to address that will be a huge place that AI can intersect climate solutions.
And I know, that Isabella also published a book, and she's an author, and she thinks a lot about the AI in the future of our world with AI. I don't know, Isabella, what your thoughts are on climate and AI, how they come together. And before I finish the question, I read a lot about using technology like drones to measure to assess the forests. I read about biologists collecting insects and trying to understand the biosphere and how it works, and how big animals, small animals, small creatures create this environment. So, Isabella, maybe a peek at the future of AI.
I definitely agree with B and you about the possibility how AI can fill in the gap, kind of mitigate what humans as us, we're not capable of, and all that. As we spoke about startups, there is this very interesting startup reached out to me a couple of weeks ago. This is what they said. An AI boom and intensifying climate crisis, many companies are navigating the complexity of carbon markets to meet their sustainability targets. So basically, they're a credit startup. I'm still very puzzled about their model and everything, but they're just very heavy on AI, trying to do some groundbreaking innovation. So there's definitely lots of things going on in the startup field in leveraging AI, trying to make a difference in the climate change crisis. On the other hand, AI itself is a great contribution in the sense that caused the climate change, and that's a no secret, because all the electricity they burn, and the ChatGPT has a huge burden on this environmental issue because they're GPUs. If anyone knows a little bit about AI, they know this is a huge concern. So there's this love and hate relationship between AI and the climate change, and how do we balance this so we can maximize the benefit and to decrease the negative impact to the minimum. So I think that's what we need to learn as soon as possible, and not just blindly thinking, oh, if we use AI, this will be done, or, oh, okay, this is caused by AI, so we're not going to use it anymore. So these kind of yes or no, black and white answer, I just don't see it work in today's digital world.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great point. We need more nuance, and that requires patience and understanding, especially when we don't understand all of the, potential implications. I think the other benefit in terms of the application of machine learning and AI in climate solutions, we've talked a lot about nature-based solutions, but in technology-based solutions as well, is the speed with which we can commercialize, iterate, and improve. So, for example, there are battery startups that are leveraging machine learning to think through how do we design quicker for different use cases, not just the sort of commercial vehicle, but long haul trucks and e-motorcycles, and really electrify all automotive and in the vehicle space, which I think is amazing because we're at a point where we can start to expand beyond just a single use case, and transportation needs that push to help us with decarbonization. And I think similarly with solar, we're at a point where we've hit cost parity on renewables being cheaper than the fossil fuel alternative, which is such a momentous moment. And to, again, get that out to more different applications where you can leverage machine learning to accelerate designs and application of solar PV technology, not just on homes and rooftops and buildings, but across many more applications. So I think it's exciting. And I think, with opportunity, yes, we need to understand the implications and be responsible, but it will hopefully be a push that we need to work more quickly over the next decade.
And, you talked about batteries, which are definitely an important factor in terms of sustainability. Current batteries use lithium, use rare earth. There's child labor, there is exploitation of minerals, there is corruption created by this wealth. I'm very encouraged actually by the progress we're making with sodium batteries. Sodium is salt, right? It's coming out of salt. It can be really, it's everywhere. It's in the seawater, it's in the mines of salt. And they can replace a lot of the batteries, at least the stationary ones used for balancing the grid, for instance. What you mentioned, the solar grid, for instance, requires balancing during the night. There is no sun, right? So batteries will supply the electricity during that time. I think again we have another thread to unwind, and love to have you back soon. I know you have to give attention to your family first, but love to have you back. But before going away, we have one last question, and maybe I'll turn to Isabella regarding the, how this will play for professionals and education. So Isabella.
Yeah, please just offering anything as a summary of our conversation or any additional adds to people who want to seek a career or develop their goals in ESG and sustainability. What would be your recommendations or piece of advice?
I would say start now. We started this conversation talking about ESG trends, and I think one big implication of the growth and potential impact that it has on business is we have a huge workforce development gap. Every function, whether it's accounting, legal, engineering, product, sale, whatever it is, right? Everybody, I think, needs to understand the role of sustainability and ESG in their role. And it will become the same as understanding, what marketing does at a company. And so I think every job is a climate job, essentially, and not being daunted by the technical jargon and the alphabet soup of climate disclosures, but just starting now and understanding that whatever your unique personal interest is in this work, that needs to be and can be your inspiration and the place from which you derive energy to keep going. Because if we do it for any other reason, it's not sustainable when it gets hard, and we have a long journey ahead of us to really achieve our collective goal of climate action that's effective. So I would say start now, build community. There's so many training programs that are really excellent. There's Climate Vine, Climate Base, TerraDo, Climate Reality, that give wonderful, strong foundations in the problem and the sort of whole systems thinking that we need to leverage to progress in this challenge. But alongside that sort of technical training, I would say build community. And, at the end of the day, it's not only what will help us succeed, but it's what will keep us going. So if I can ever be a resource to anybody, I'm happy to be. And I think excited to bring in more and more new people into the work that we're doing for climate.
Well, maybe I'll before we close, but there is another transdisciplinary word which I'll add it to the dictionary today, and these are the requirements for people not only to get around the table in a multidisciplinary fashion and use their own acronyms and bring their ivory towers in the meeting room, but actually to really communicate, because sustainability hinges on proper communication. As you said many times, Bea, and you said Isabella as well, we need a simple communication among all the people, along the value chain, along the players in the finance, along the players in technology. So we don't have yet this common language of sustainability. But I hope, today we made a little dent in this big task. Isabella, I'm going back to
great.
you, and
Thank you.
please.
Thank you, Manuel. And of course, thank you so much, Bea, for everything you've shared with us. Thank you for taking the time. And also thanks to our audience for tuning in with us. Make sure you're joining us every week for a new episode of AKFI's Actionable ESG Talk series, where you can gain new perspective on how to mitigate risk and create value by integrating ESG and digital transformation. So until next week, goodbye for now. Bye, Manuel. Bye, Bea.
Bye.
Bye, Bea. Bye, Isabella.
Thank you.
Thank you.